Hi, I'm John Byrne with Poets&Quants. We're back on the Washington University campus at the Olin Business School. This is our third and final live stream webinar, and we're talking about the new MBA curriculum at Olin. And we have three great guests with us right now. We have Jen Whitten, who's the Associate Dean and Director of the Weston Career Center. People love you because you help them get jobs. Mm-hmm. We have next to you Kendra Kelly, who is an MBA student who went on the trip to Washington, Barcelona, and Shanghai, and even started doing internship interviewing while in Barcelona.
Yes.
Good for you.
Thank you.
And I might say she has 5 offers. Have you chosen which one?
I have selected where I'm going.
You're going to L'Oreal.
I am.
Oh, I love L'Oreal.
Yes.
That's great.
Me too.
And then we have Chris Collier, who is a career coach with the Weston Career Center. Welcome all.
Correct. Thank you.
So I know that recruiting on business school campuses starts super early. And it's an anxiety-ridden process, and people get all stressed about it, in part because there's so many other things that are happening. You've just come to campus. In many cases, you're in your core curriculum. Those are often the most demanding courses. Faculty throw more stuff at you than you possibly can do to teach you how to prioritize your work. And then these recruiters come, and you have to go to sessions at night, cocktails, hors d'oeuvres, interviews. It's kind of stressful, which is why you started the career planning portion of the program, even during the immersion, right?
Yes.
So tell me, what are the kinds of things that you did, and what did you want to accomplish with the students during the immersion?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started working with the students even before they got on campus, because many students might even start recruiting. As you mentioned, Kendra had an interview during the immersion. So what we're trying to do is lay that foundation for success. So what we were able to do is work with them a little bit about who they are, what their story is, start to think about what their strategy is going to be, and then we started doing workshops on the road with them. So thinking about how do they leverage their background, how do they begin to target companies, interviewing. All of that we're doing over the summer to lay that foundation so it is easier when they come back onto campus that they already know a little bit about what they should be doing. So just giving them a little bit more time to ramp up.
And you're also helping them translate the experience abroad
Absolutely.
into a story.
Absolutely.
That helps them get a job, right?
Absolutely. So, and many of us, and myself and Chris, we actually even sat in some of the sessions with the faculty. We participated. I did some of the tours myself, so I could learn what is it that our students are learning to help them articulate that to a future employer.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun as well.
Now, Kendra, how in the world were you doing internship interviews from Barcelona? How'd you get that head start?
So I started in May, I believe, with the Poets&Quants Networking Fair, actually, in New York.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. Yes, that was my first touch point, actually, with L'Oreal.
With L'Oreal,
so,
sure.
Yeah, it was a great experience. But I'm also a consortium fellow.
That's great.
And so I went to OP, which is kind of our week-long, really intense recruiting experience. I also went to the Forte conference and even Jumpstart for brand management, and
wow,
so
you checked all the boxes.
I checked all the boxes.
You
exactly.
were really thorough.
Yes,
That's really
yes.
good.
And so I came in with a head start, absolutely, and that it was certainly it wasn't a question of if, it was a question of just how I'm going to get it done, and I'm so grateful for the support that I had during the trip, because I could say to our faculty members, hey, I have to do this, I'm gonna have to leave class for a minute to go with, continue this process and have my interview.
And they're thinking, already?
Exactly.
You mean even on this immersion?
Exactly. And then career services, they were just incredible. I could say, hey, let me work through this response with you really fast, or help me craft what we just did on this project. And so that was really helpful. Yeah. I think it absolutely helped set me apart.
So Chris, you did actual coaching, both one-on-one and in groups. What was that like?
You know what? It was a fantastic experience. Kendra kind of talked about how we worked to to help develop those stories or strategies. And one of the things that we were really conscious of is that, Sam Chun was talking about competitive advantage. And
Right.
then from a career perspective, like how can you share your competitive advantage with employers? Because just reading a P&L statement may not be a competitive advantage. It's what you did with that P&L statement that becomes your unique, identifier during an interview. So we delivered content around identifying competitive advantages and how do you talk about it, and then also touching on things like LinkedIn and their digital advantage that they could use as well.
Sure. So how did you fit all this in to all the comings and goings of the trip in 3 different locations?
So I can share. I mean, we worked a lot with the faculty here
okay.
to carve out what that time would look like so that it was actually built into the student's schedule. So as students would get their schedules for the day, you'd see what you're doing in the classroom, you might see your experiential, and then you would see what you're going to be doing with the Career Center. So it was built into the overall agenda, because I think we have our faculty and our administration believe that our students' careers are of the utmost importance. So it was built right in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Kendra, did you find particular pieces of this really helpful for you as you were interviewing for your interns?
Absolutely. I think one of the first sessions we did was just understanding who you are and really crafting your personal brand and your story.
Right.
And personally, sometimes it's hard for me to do that. And so it was really helpful to have those techniques readily available in the moment due to the fact that I was interviewing for part of the summer experience.
Now, I asked the previous students who were in the panel, what was their magic moment during the entire trip? I need to ask you.
Oh gosh, my magic moment. There were a few of us that had the opportunity to spend half of the day on a yacht, which
Really?
was very fun
Where?
in Barcelona.
Nice.
And that is an experience I will never forget. We convinced our captain to take us out farther than he usually does, and we just jumped off and swam in the ocean for a while, and yeah, it was incredible.
Wow,
It was
that sounds
incredible.
like fun.
Yeah.
I don't know how career related that is. But it really sounds like a good break from the whole.
Yeah,
I think
well,
we missed out on that. We
Wow.
Yeah.
built that
Yeah,
in.
I mean,
There's
seriously.
negotiation.
You could
There
have
we go,
negotiation.
there we
Okay,
go.
next time you have to have one of the career counseling sessions on a boat.
Well, in terms of my career magic moment, I will say I had a late night interview in Barcelona, and I got off my call and I thought to myself, wait a minute, I'm not a student abroad. I'm a working professional abroad, because I had the opportunity to talk about these projects that were client focused, and we had to figure out deliverables, and those were just incredible experiences to have in the summer when most of my peers at other schools weren't doing anything like that. And
No,
so
they didn't even show up yet. Right.
So to be able to speak about those experiences so early on in my MBA journey, I think was just an incredible differentiating factor.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the benefits of experiential learning. When you're involved in a real project with a real organization or company, that gives you a great talking point during a job interview, whether it's for your internship or whether it's for a full-time offer. How do you help them shape that story, I wonder?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think is most important is we do have a really robust career center, and each student comes in with a dedicated career coach. So as they're walking through that process, they have the opportunity to sit down and talk with somebody about it, right? It's the time, the accessibility that a student, anytime they want to, can come in and they can talk with us. So we look at it, we ask lots of questions to kind of dig a little bit deeper and understand what their accomplishments were and help them articulate that. Just listening, I
Right.
think, is actually the key to helping somebody be successful.
And picking out what's most important.
Picking out, yep.
And getting them to emphasize it and put it in their
Yeah.
story.
And practice. So we're there to practice, right? So if somebody wants to come in, you want to share your story, we're going to listen, we're going to refine, pick out things, and there's a lot of times that we're doing that as well.
Now, Chris, since you were coaching people in Barcelona, I wonder what's the difference between coaching a student in a foreign location like that as opposed to on campus?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we interact with students in multiple ways, and it's really kind of easy when you have those very structured kind of coaching appointments where they can come in and sit down. Okay, what would you like to talk about today? Just because of the nature of the travel and the nature of the whole global experience, oftentimes we'd find that we would just set up shop in the hotel lobby and flip open the laptop, which says we're open for business, and we'd get the drive-by coaching. And those were a surprising and really successful way to connect with the students, because it was on the fly and when they needed it and in a very relaxed setting.
Yeah, that's really cool. I would think the session is also different because when you're in a different location, there may be, it may be actually easier to generate or create a feeling of intimacy and vulnerability in a new and different place than maybe it would be in the traditional, in the office, on the campus kind of thing.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, we had lots of not only hotel lobby discussions, but we had bus ride discussions, and we had back between school sessions, and it was really we'll say sort of ever-changing way to provide that level of support.
Now, do you think the students are better prepared when they came back to campus than what they would have been if they didn't have this immersion?
Absolutely. I definitely feel like they're better prepared, and because they have new stories. Because most of the time when somebody would come in, right, they're only going to have the stories they had from their previous background. Now they have that. They have these new stories that they can start to share and articulate. So absolutely. And I think there's the bonding that also helped prepare the students, where before, if you didn't know your career services career coach, you're just getting to know them. We know them. We've spent all this time building that rapport.
Oh, that's the other thing, exactly.
That it's not, you can feel like you can step by and you can come into our office.
Right. Because we spent a lot of time talking about the bonding among the students.
We bonded.
But there's also the bonding among staff and faculty.
Absolutely.
And
which
the
is just as
students
important.
with faculty and staff as well.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Jen, explain to me, why does recruiting of MBAs start so early? Can't these companies just lay off for a little while and let everyone just like get into a groove first before they pounce on them?
Great question.
Because a lot of people don't know that about the MBA
It does.
experience.
It starts really early. I mean, I think it's still
Like how early?
Yeah,
Explain.
competitive job market. I would say we do have some early recruitment in the summer. I would say it's as early as September as we'll start to see employers on campus recruiting for internships.
For the summer internship in September.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think because of the competitive nature, we're still in a great job market, which is fantastic. And companies want to find top talent. So I think a lot of that begins to start early. So
this has more to do with the demand for MBAs than anything else. Because, people read these headlines about declining MBA applications and, the MBA, if it's not dead, it's over, it's jumped the shark. And yet there's never been a time when graduating MBAs have made more money, have had more companies clamoring to interview them at stages that are incredibly early in the process. And Kendra, 5 job offers, really?
Yes.
That's remarkable.
Thank you. Thank you.
How do you make students be a little bit more patient about the process? Because I'm sure that if you get an offer really early, you might want to accept it, and it may not be the ideal offer for you. So how do you coach people through that process and against some of the pressure that a potential employer would put on a student to make a quick decision?
Can definitely share. I think one of the things that's most important is give people that space to explore.
Yeah.
And even as we're starting earlier, I do feel like it gives students that opportunity to explore while they're actually in these experiences. I know some students were thinking about consulting. So you're able to consult with real companies, you're traveling. I think even that exposure early on allows students to do a little bit more of that exploration. And then knowing that you have a career coach, that if you get that early offer, you can go in and you can talk to somebody that really knows who you are to relieve maybe some of that pressure and give you some ideas about, who are you and what your values are. And we're able to do that with a lot of students. But I know that, I do know that there's a pressure for many of them.
How did you get into this business?
How did I get into this business? Oh gosh, great question. It's one of these things I've always enjoyed potential. So being able to work with people in this way, I think is just really fulfilling to be a part of their careers. I'm also really interested in lots of companies and careers, so it's a great way. I get to learn through the students, all the different things, the employers that we work with has just really been something that I've enjoyed for as long as I can remember.
So you get the vicarious experience of this company, that company,
Oh, I love
and
it.
different people,
Absolutely.
and the diversity of all that.
Yeah.
And
get to
get
learn
to absorb
constantly.
it and maybe even pretend on some level to be them.
Yeah, well, I get to learn. I get to learn every single day. My job is never the same. As companies have changed, as the job market has changed, I like to learn, so I get to do that and bring that back and hopefully help others be successful.
Chris, did you have a magic moment in Barcelona?
Yeah, yes, I did. One of the interesting things, I believe, is being part of that bus ride, right? The bus ride to and from the different locations. And getting a chance to, when students were pivoting from, we'll say, Barcelona to looking forward towards Beijing and Shanghai, we had students who Shanghai was their hometown. And so they created a group chat and started sharing tips and tricks and come to know more about my city, and here's what to do, here's where to go get SIM cards. And it was this wonderful experience still happening, even though they've been traveling for 3 or 4 weeks now. They're still having that outreach. And I think what was also magical about it was creating that global perspective, because our domestic students were like, wow, we had an opportunity to maybe have done a little bit better job for our international students that are coming over. And so it was this just crystallizing moment of, this is what this program's about.
Right, that's great. So Kendra, when you came back to campus, was it a downer because you had this incredible experience abroad? What was the feeling like?
It was not a downer at all. I was ready to jump into core and kick off my MBA in a more traditional sense, if you will.
Yes.
And so, no, and I will say the bonds that we created as a cohort, to be able to have that exist in St. Louis and be just as meaningful, just as strong, just as fun, it was incredible. I mean, it wasn't a downer at all. I will say that we felt, many of us felt very prepared for core in terms of how rigorous it is, how time consuming it is. I mean, we were really prepped very well through the global immersion. I believe one of my classmates, Jennifer, called it a baptism by fire. And ultimately that allowed us to be very resilient.
Yeah.
And so we entered fall with a core foundation of key principles and concepts that we need to know and understand how to work through those different frameworks and such. And then we just had another layer of intensity added on, which is what you would expect in core. But we were prepared and ready to be able to meet those challenges.
Plus, I'm assuming you got to know how to work with each other.
Absolutely.
So that's a big strength.
Absolutely. There's one of the courses that we take, Foundations of Impactful Teamwork, that really help us understand how to work effectively as a team and in groups, as well as how to assess your personal leadership style in the midst of doing that. And even having such a deep dive into that throughout the summer was very helpful going into core when you have a lot of group projects.
I bet.
Yes.
And I'm told a lot of second-year students looked at you first-year students and
Yes.
said, hey, what's going on here? Because you people were so tight.
Yeah, they still comment on it, actually.
Is that right?
Yes, we're our bond is different, but I think that's what you would expect after circumnavigating the globe with 100 strangers turned friends turned family. So
That's
we're
true. And
bonded in a
actually,
different way.
when the new first years come back next year in the fall, you guys will have that in common with them.
Absolutely.
And so you won't look at them the same way. You'll be united by the shared experience, even though you didn't go on it with them.
Right. I mean, our second years are, they are so supportive and so helpful,
Yeah.
and we're grateful to have them. But yes, our bond is different, and it's
Kendra, I bet you
it's
they're
different.
envious
Might be.
because they
might
didn't
be.
get to go on that trip.
They might be. I don't know. They've had some pretty great experiences as a class as well.
So I've asked everybody their magic moment. Jen, what was yours on the trip?
Magic moment. I think one of
There
the
were so many you can't remember one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, well, I spent so much time with the students, and I think for me, what I realize in self-awareness is, for me, I've always been in this role where I talk to students for the first time they get on campus, and they're all going through life changes because they've arrived.
Indeed.
When I traveled with them, you know what? I was also going through issues with jet lag, and I was tired.
Well,
and
that's the other thing about this, right?
I had a very different experience where I realized that bond, and I was able to put myself maybe in the students' shoes a little bit easier than I typically would if they were just coming to me on campus. And that was just a really important part to realize that, I had a common experience with students that I had never had before, and I've really enjoyed that bond that's been able to continue on. They know me, I know them, in a very different way than I've ever had before in my previous jobs.
That's terrific. Well, Jen, thank you.
Yeah.
Kendra, thank you, and
Thank
good
you.
luck to you on your internship at
Thank you.
L'Oreal this summer.
Thanks.
Chris, a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So this is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. I hope you enjoyed our 3 live stream webinars from the campus of the Olin Business School at Washington University. It's all about their new MBA program. We named it the MBA Program of the Year because it is bold, it is innovative, it is different, and it really has an impact on students. So thank you, and thank you all for joining us.